Hi, Dr. Coles. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to have you on today. For everybody that's listening or watching, Dr. Coles is a trusted friend and mentor. We've met many a time, so it's a privilege to actually be recording one of these calls, so that you guys can hear some wisdom from the mouth of Dr. Ty himself. So we're super excited to be here today, Dr. Tyler. Why don't you give us just a quick intro on you, and then we'll kind of dive into what we discussed we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so currently I live in the Phoenix, Arizona area. My brother and I own Premier Orthodontics. We have 6 practices scattered kind of around the Phoenix area. And just my background, my family are dentists. My dad was a dentist. I have a sister who's a dentist. I have an older brother that's an oral surgeon. Then my other older brother is an orthodontist. He's my business partner. So I kind of grew up in dentistry. My dad, loved his job, loved what he did. And so I kind of naturally drifted towards that area. My brother went into orthodontics first, and so he thought that he would probably have a job for me. So he was, I think he graduated 2006. So around 2010, he was booming, was killing it. He told me I should go into orthodontics. And so I kind of went that route. And then the whole economic collapse happened, and Phoenix was kind of the poster child for the real estate collapse. So when I came out of school, he didn't really have full-time work for me. He let me work 1 day a week for him. So those other days, it was hard to find a job as an orthodontist as a new grad. So I kind of was working the corporate dentistry world. So I would work, 5 days a week in 5 different offices in, 5 different locations all over Phoenix. So it was a, good hour and a half drive between different spots. And back then, the daily wage was more like 800, 750. Currently it's closer to 1,300 or plus. So it was, hustling to try to kind of get through and just make the student loan payments. So that's kind of where I started in orthodontics. When I first came out of school, it was 1 day a week with my brother, 4 days a week with whoever would hire me. And yeah, anyone who's worked in corporate dentistry kind of knows how that works. You show up first day at work and there's about 100 patients on the schedule, and everybody's angry because you're the 4th orthodontist they've seen in the last 6 months. All of them have been in treatment 3 or 4 years. And they basically all just want their braces off and usually show up and it's just kind of a mess. All the patients aren't treated well. And, you kind of do the best you can, and it's super stressful days. So that was kind of the first couple years of, my existence was showing up, putting out fires, dealing with other people's messes, trying to, do the best I can for patients. But, it was kind of a stressful time. It was, long hours. We were, brand new out of school and not a lot of money at the time. And so I was, working 5 or 6 days a week and usually 10, 12-hour days with really long commutes. So at that time, I was, I think, 27, 28, so pretty young. And I actually got shingles at that time. So
No way.
yeah, so it's
Because of
kind
all
of a
the
crazy
stress.
thing. Yeah, so, that's a disease usually 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds get when their immune systems get compromised. So at 27, 28, I kind of had pushed myself to the limit where, my body was starting to fight back, and I got shingles for a period, which was, kind of a weird experience. So at this time, my brother and I kind of had to figure out, what the next steps were. We needed to grow our practice. Up till then, we had always relied on dentist referrals like most orthodontists, and we'd kind of maxed out what we were getting from that. So we started looking into other alternatives of how to grow our practice, how to, eventually get to where I could work full time with him. Originally, that was my only goal, was just to get busy enough where I didn't have to do these corporate dental jobs. And so we started looking into marketing, business side, and that's really where I kind of started to excel. I became a student of marketing, and we, slowly went from me working 1 day a week till eventually I could work full time with my brother. And then we acquired more practices, kind of built it up to where it is now, to where we're, probably one of the biggest private practice orthodontic offices in Arizona. And yeah, now we have multiple associates, multiple offices. So I kind of went all the way from the bottom of just barely paying my bills, trying to get a job wherever I can get it, to where we're now, expanding and kind of really scaling our practice. So that's kind of my journey in the last 8 years since joining my brother's practice, in kind of a nutshell.
Nice. That's awesome. And that's a big reason why I wanted to bring you on today, is because you've taken, you really did start from the bottom, and and now you're here. You've got 6 locations in Arizona, and you've learned all of this stuff yourself. The majority of this has been in-house marketing, and you might have worked with, different vendors here and there, but you've really learned that. And so I wanted to pick your brain today and kind of have this public conversation so that other orthodontists can benefit from that. Tell us about when you were first started to work for your brother. 1 day a week, you guys just had that one location, correct?
We had 2 locations at the time. So
Okay.
yeah, they were both like, 2-day-a-week locations barely. So they weren't real busy. I mean, they were fine practices for a single doctor, but they definitely weren't big enough for 2 full-time doctors at the time.
Got it. And how long had Dustin's your brother's name, right?
Yep.
How long had he been running those for?
He had been out 6 years when I joined him.
Okay.
So he had been very successful. He'd done very well. Again, when the economic crash happened, he got hit pretty hard. So again, when I came out, he was still doing fine, paying the bills, but he definitely didn't need me to help with his current patient load. He brought me on basically, because he's a nice guy and to help me out. But
Yeah.
he went negative to kind of bring me on short term, and so I kind of had to, grow the practice to justify my salary at the point. So.
Got it. So what's been the biggest takeaway from the last 8 years in learning how to grow these? You were at 7 at one point, then you scaled back to 6, correct? So growing those 7 practices, what has been the biggest takeaway going from 2 to 7, 2 to 6?
So the biggest thing we figured out how to do was how to get new patients without a referring dentist. So whenever you're doing, dental referral marketing, it's good because one, dentist can supply you a ton of patients. It doesn't require a lot of money. It does require a good amount of effort to kind of maintain and build those relationships. But it's something that you don't control, you don't own. And in the drop of the hat, those referrals can all go away. And it's not very scalable because there's only so many doctors who can refer. So if you want more patients from them, you're really beholden to those practices, and there's no way to scale that up. So anyone who's done, any research in marketing, it's all about how can you scale, where if you want more of something, what do you need to do to get more of that? With dental referral marketing, my brother had done a great job. We were probably 80-90% referrals at that point, but there wasn't any way to double the size of the practice just by, you can only take so many muffins to the dental offices. You can only go to so many lunches. They only have so many patients to send. So if you want to double the size of your practice, there's no way to do that unless you do something else. So that's where I tried to look at, what are the other opportunities to get new patients outside of those dental referrals? So that's where I really started looking into, internal marketing was one aspect, but eventually I got to more of online digital marketing. So, Google ads, search engine optimization, website optimization, Facebook ads, and then all the other aspects of digital marketing. So specifically like paid ads is where I specialize in. So we do some of like the organic stuff of, posting funny videos and, hoping people see it and come in. That's not really what I do well. I'm really more focused on how can I get patients from here to our website into our office, and then how much money does that cost? How can I get it the low? And then if I spend more money, do I get more patients? So figuring out that formula of every time I spend $200 on Google, I get a new patient. Then all I have to do is decide how many patients I want, spend more money, and then that will turn into that return. So that's really been what's set us apart, is we figured out that, how to do that consistently and predictably. And so we can get patients whenever we want them, and other people are kind of beholden to dentists, like I mentioned. So coming out of the whole COVID lockdown, most guys, from what I spoke with, they had, been locked down a month. All their referring dental offices had been locked down a month. So when they opened back up, there were no referrals coming in because all the dentists had been closed also. For us, the minute that everything opened back up, Google ads were like at a discount. So we quadrupled our budget, and then we got so many new patients, we couldn't put them all anywhere because we were getting them for so cheap.
Got it.
And that's kind of the difference, is when we want new patients, we've got a machine and system that just generates them. Other people and other offices, Again, when you're reliant on the dentist, it's great when it works, but when it's not working, there's nothing really you can do to impact that.
Got it. Yeah, and I think I remember you talking when I came down to Arizona in December. You mentioned like, okay, we have this number of, I can't remember what it was, like 120. We want this number of patients coming in every month, right? And then you just work backward from there. Like, how much do we need to spend on this marketing, and this marketing, correct?
Yeah, so we had looked at, for a 12-month period, what was our marketing budget? How many patients did we get during that 12-month period? So we figured out every time we spend about $120 in general, we got a new patient. And then we could limit it down to specific channels, where on Google, our cost per acquisition is like 96. Facebook, it's like 220, a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we decided we wanted to get 110 new patients per month for our practice. And so then we just did those numbers backwards and said, normally we get, 70% on Google, 20% on Facebook, 10% over here. So we know exactly what we need to spend on which channel. And then we do that, we can measure it and see if it worked out, and then make adjustments as needed. But again, usually having those metrics and those numbers in mind, you can predict pretty accurately what result you're going to get. And again, coming out of the pandemic, Google ads were just so cheap because no one else was advertising, because everyone else was scared and thought that there would be no one wanting braces. We found it was the opposite, that there was this huge demand. And so the normal cost for a Google ad was like 1/4 what it was. So we put the same budget in there and got 4 times as many new patients, which is a good problem to have too many. But then we create the next problem of not enough capacity in our offices and not enough doctors to treat them all. So solving the new patient question was, kind of the game changer. Is getting new patients in the door is no longer a problem. It's very predictable. And so that's been kind of the secret to allowing us to scale and to grow our practices the way we have.
Got it. So the next thing I want to talk about, I kind of want to go through in my mind, there's kind of 3 realms here. There's like the Google SEO realm. So Google ads, SEO, website, and then there's the Facebook ads, social media, Instagram, and then there's the internal marketing, like the follow-up, the text, the emails, right? So kind of want to go through each of those and talk through what the pros and cons are, because when I talk to doctors, it's always like, oh, what's the best thing going to be? What is all this? And I'm kind of like, it depends. Like, I think social media is fastest. But you mentioned like the cost per acquisition might be a little bit higher, but as long as you're profitable, who cares, right? So let's start with websites, SEO, and Google. My first question there is, I know you've done a ton of SEO work. So for those of you who are listening, Dr. Coles has this, ultimate guide to braces for kids, ultimate guide to braces for adults, ultimate guide to Invisalign on his website. These really long blog articles and guides that he's written, they're all internally linked and externally linked, which in SEO terms just means that he's ranking nationally for these terms as well as locally. And that means that anybody searching for those terms, he's going to show up generally on the first or second page of Google, and people are going to find him naturally that way. So and then also his website's just set up to convert. So we have another webinar and a lot of other resources about, having a singular call to action on your website, all kinds of other stuff that will help you actually create a website that converts instead of something that just looks pretty. But my first question is, what have you done? Why run Google ads if you have SEO dialed in? Speak to that and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I always kind of go to the formula of there's return on investment and then return on effort. And so return on investment, that's if I put money in, how much money do I make back? And then there's return on effort, is if I put work in, how much money do I get back? So Facebook ads are super low in effort, because they can hire you guys, turn it on, they do nothing, and they get patients. All they have to do is spend money. Website SEO, that is, if you're paying a website company to do it, there's obviously that expense. But to do it well, I think you really need to do a lot of it yourself. So it's going to be a huge effort, but the return on that is gigantic. So once you can get search engine optimization where you show up first for free, you're going to win most of the battles, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes months or years to get there. So for a lot of orthodontists, they have to decide, like, are they willing to put in the effort to learn how to do it and then to do it consistently forever? If not, then I probably wouldn't even bother, because doing just a little bit is like doing nothing. It's like spitting in the ocean.
So
You don't
true.
even make an effect.
Yeah.
So if I weren't going to do SEO and try to rank my website organically, I would go all in on the Facebook ads and then the Google ads. Because Google ads, you can show up number one for a cost, but at the same token, like, you still need your website to convert. If your website's bad, you can spend money to get people to the website and then nobody becomes a new patient.
Yeah.
So as far as why we do both, showing up number one on your ad and then showing up number 2, 3, and 4 organically, that's again, a good formula for success.
Yeah. If you're
So
half of the search page results, then you're pretty
yeah,
much guaranteed a click.
so for a long time, we weren't able to track if it was Google organic or Google paid. We just knew it was Google. So it was like, this is working. We're getting patients for $200 a month. Like, let's just do it. So we knew, like, how many people clicked from Google to got to our website. It was hard to track conversions. We actually now have a way to track actual conversions. So we're gathering data now where we're going to look at Google organic to Google paid, how many of those actually turn into patients that turn into actual money.
Nice.
Then we're going to adjust our budgets on Google ads to see if we drop our budget, does it affect the end revenue? If yes,
Nice.
then we can always change that. So up till now, it's been, we know it's working, we're getting results we want. Let's just keep doing both. So again, most guys probably, again, if you can do it, great, but most website companies can't put in the level of effort for one client to rank them number one on anything in their market. It's just really, really difficult. It takes a lot of time and effort. So if you want to do that, I think you need to at least become aware of what's happening and then dedicate some time, allocate some time to work on that yourself. And if you're not willing to do that, then go the other side and go full in on the paid marketing and drive traffic there, through paid means. But also, you have to understand you only need to be better than your closest competitor. So if you're in Phoenix, we've got a ton of competition. So I had to be, the best in Phoenix, which meant I had to be almost probably one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
If you're in some rural town with, a handful of other doctors that may not even have a website, the amount of effort you need to put in to get number one in your market's pretty low. So that's kind of where you need to balance on, do you go all in? It depends on your market, how much your competition is doing, and then also how many new patients you can get. If you can get to the level you want by just doing paid ads with no effort, then do that route. If you want to grow and scale from 2 to 6 and 5x your practice like we have, you're gonna have to do a lot of things differently and do a lot of things better than your competition. So it just really depends on where you want to be at and what level of effort and money you're willing to put in to get those results.
Yeah, and I like the idea. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so I was talking to an orthodontist a couple months ago actually, and I was telling her I think in an ideal world everybody would have an in-house marketing person that actually knows how to do everything, and maybe they might work with some vendors at some point for graphic design or other things. But like you have this person, right? Like you have not really a CMO, but somebody that executes everything that you tell them to do. And that, as far as like blogs go, or like creating a great website, like writing the copy, the words on your website, all of those things, I'm of the opinion that they should be done in-house, because nobody knows you as well as you know you, and nobody can beat you at being you. And so it doesn't have to be the doctor necessarily. Maybe you can speak to this afterwards, but you could, in my opinion, you could hire somebody in-house on board that's full-time, that understands your practice, understands the orthodontic world, to write this content for your blog, to create your website, put the right words and the right pictures on there, so that you're showing up in the best possible light. Because outsourcing that to, like you said, a website company or another type of client that way, or a client customer relationship, just isn't going to be as effective in the long run, especially with websites and SEO. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. So, I mean, currently we have 2 full-time marketing employees.
Hmm.
So one is more of the technical professional. She can do websites. She can do, she understands SEO, knows how to do the linking, knows how to do Google My Business optimization. She runs our Facebook ads, our Google ads, and she's got a solid grasp on everything that's happening from the technical side. Then we have another employee that his full-time job is the organic. So when we're shooting YouTube videos, he edits the videos, he edits the
Nice.
pictures. He's got ideas for, we need to go to get a picture of this video to put it in this thing. So
Hmm.
getting one person who's really good at both those aspects is difficult, a creative and a technical expert.
Hmm.
So as far as like in-house, what you would absolutely need, I think you need someone that, again, if you're going with most people hire a creative, or they get someone who
Hmm.
can take pictures and videos, but then it falls short on the technical side where they don't have someone that knows what to do with that content to get
Yeah.
it to generate new patients.
So
So
true.
if you can hire a company that has a solid grasp on that, I think that would probably work. The problem is, like, most of the time, if you hire an agency or a company to do your website, they're either good at one or the other, but not both. And
Yeah.
so if you're working with someone else, you need to fill in wherever their gaps are. So a lot of times they can, like, you look at dentist websites and they look beautiful and they have these moving images on the header, and
Hmm.
the colors are all nice. So that was built by a web designer, like a graphic designer, a graphic artist. But then you
Hmm.
look, there's all the critical things of like a call to action are missing. There's no way to, like, for a patient to
Yeah.
get into the office easily. There's no clear, distinct message for what makes your practice different. So they missed out on that strategy side. So really there's 3 aspects. There's the creative, that's like the design and how pretty it looks. There's the strategic, which is, does this convert? How can we make it convert better? Then there's the
Hmm.
technical, which is, are all the things connected on the back end? So Google likes it. Does it connect to our analytics? So website companies, they're usually pretty good at the design. They're pretty good at the technical stuff. Strategic stuff, oftentimes they fall short on. So again, it depends on your situation and who you're working with on what you might need to fill in. So trying to get someone who's really good at technical aspect, that's like a website pro, is
Hmm.
probably a rare find. So I wouldn't try to like find that person, but you
Hmm.
could find the creative that has some, you know, strategy background. But I think the doctor probably should get to be better at the strategy, learning,
Yeah.
like, my website, will patients get here know what to do once they get here? Will they
Yeah.
come into the practice? What makes my practice different? So the strategy part is really where I think the doctor needs to step in. So right now, predominantly, I'm doing that, where I guide my marketing team. I look at it and say, like, we need to change this. This is an idea. Let's try this thing. They can go execute, but I still have to kind of guide the ship. At one point, I was doing all 3 seats because I wanted to learn how to do them all. So I knew in order to
Hmm.
direct them, I had to do it myself. So
Yeah.
I I can do all those other aspects, but I found people that are better at it than me. But I
Yeah.
still have eyes on everything, and I control the strategy behind it. So trying to outsource all 3 of those aspects is usually not going to work out real well, just because the of an agency, they're not going to be able to do it to the level that you can do it yourself.
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. And I love that idea of the doctor being this strategy behind everything. You can't outsource strategy. You can, but it's just never going to be quite as good because you as the doctor know the message you want to bring to the market. You know your unique selling propositions better than anyone else. And if you don't understand how to market your practice and you're always outsourcing that, always, it's never going to be as good as if you come up with the plan yourself and understand and learn.
Yeah, and
So go ahead.
I was going to say, when for a period we were running, we were approached by a lot of orthodontists to do the marketing we did in our office for them. And that's when we started our agency, Ortho Marketing DFY. And
Mhm.
so our goal was to just basically take what we did, copy and paste it for everybody else.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked to some extent, but for a lot of markets, it didn't work well because they were missing so many of those other aspects where their strategy didn't necessarily align with ours. And so
Hmm.
copy and pasting what worked for us got mixed results for everybody else. And so,
Yeah.
and a lot of times, trying to get anybody aligned within their office to what we were doing, so it would work, was difficult. And then trying to realign what we did for them, was difficult because we didn't understand their strategy either. So again, trying to do it for other people to the same level we did it for ourselves, I found how hard that is to scale. So really, if your goal is to grow and scale to even close to the extent we have, I think the doctor and the head of the operation has to take an active role in the strategy. Otherwise, it's never going to work trying to work with an agency or work with someone else doing it for you.
Love that. Amazing, amazing. And tell me, how have you learned marketing? What's been your MO for becoming, because everybody goes to dental school, right? And then they go into the specialty, but there's not a ton of business training there, if any. So what have you done to learn business and marketing in the last 8 years or so?
Yeah, so anybody who's been around me much knows I kind of have an addiction to online courses. So
I'm the same way.
yeah, so if there's a course on something, rather than trying to go research 1,000 blogs on it or watch a bunch of YouTube videos on it or watch or listen to a bunch of podcasts on it, I would go spend the money to get a course that someone's already curated all that knowledge and presents it in a very organized fashion. And I just consume those all the time. And so that's really been what I've done, is also not learning marketing from orthodontists. I learned marketing from marketers. There's people that spend their whole life learning how to do marketing. We spend our whole life learning how to straighten teeth. So we're experts at that. And then we might dabble at these other aspects. So I'd rather go to the source of, how to rank a website, not from an orthodontist, but from someone who does this every day for these huge companies that make millions of dollars based on ranking websites. Yeah. So there's a few resources I've used. The main one is digitalmarketer.com. So they're kind of my foundation source. They teach you the basics for, what knowledge you need, whether it be from a search engine optimization standpoint, website conversion, paid traffic, paid ads. They'll tell you what these things mean and kind of the basic foundation. There's lots of other people you can learn after that as far as, what might work for your market specifically. But from a bare bones standpoint, these courses are not expensive, especially for an orthodontist. I mean, most of them are $100, $200. For the average small business owner. I think
there's a subscription as well, right, for digital marketer?
Yeah, so there's a few different plans depending on if you're just dipping your toes in it or if you want to jump full in. So there is like a $97 a month plan. If you want to go full in, it's probably like $500 a month. Again, for orthodontists, these are pretty small investments. So it's not really an investment of money so much as an investment in time. You do have to put in the hours to learn it. So for me, I had a lot of commutes. I would get the course and I would just listen to it in the car on the way there. And I would try to, once I got to the office, write down the stuff I needed to remember. So that was kind of my method for learning. And just every day I had, 30 to 45-minute commute. I would just put on these courses, listen to these experts in marketing, present exactly what I needed to do. I would go write down my ideas and then, figure out how to execute them. So that's kind of been how I've gone through that process. And yeah, I'm continuing doing that today. Like today, I'm less focused on marketing because, again, we've already kind of figured that out. That's not a challenge anymore. Now it's more of the business management and figuring out how to run, a large business with, 60 employees and lots of moving parts.
Love it. Yeah, and I want to get to that a little bit at the end, but let's go. So we talked about Google, SEO, websites. Now let's go to the social media side of things. What are the pros and cons? What can you outsource? What shouldn't you outsource?
So anything organic, I think, has to be 100% in-house. So things that you're just posting, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever other channel you're playing on, getting an agency to come up with photos or ideas or videos that represent your brand or your theme is not going to work real well. So I think it does have to be in-house on that. The paid ads can be 100% outsourced though. So if you're getting a Facebook ad driving traffic into your website or getting them to call your phone, that's where, the technical side is where most, orthodontists aren't going to get that experience. It's not, again, it's not crazy hard or difficult. There's just a learning curve to it and it takes time. So outsourcing that side is 100% doable. So most orthodontists, when they think social media marketing, they focus solely on like the organic side where I'm going to take photos and pictures and post them. The problem is that, like, at least for us, again, it's not my specialty. I'm not that good at that. For us, there's very, very little return on investment or effort there. We use that more as a proof of, social proof, where if people see our ads, they come check out our page, come check out our Instagram profile, they see there's content there, then they go on to our website. So it's important to have it there as a social proof that, we do things, we exist. This is kind of what we look like. This is our vibe in the office. But if we weren't doing the paid ads, nobody would get there anyway. So there are orthodontists who are much better at this than me. So guys like, the braces guy on TikTok and Instagram, he's got millions of followers. He's, 1,000 times better at this than I am. So if you want to learn how to do organic, like, you could try to copy what he's done. He's kind of unique in that aspect. And so that's kind of like catching lightning in a bottle to do it that well. Not many people are going to be able to do it. But doing the paid ads, they could hire you guys or hire a lot of people who do this well and turn it on, and it just kind of works. So
I'm totally on board with that, because the thing with the organic thing that Grant Collins does so well, or Dovey Prero, or any of these other guys, is they've just, like, it's time versus money investment, right? And there's so much time that goes into creating organic content, whereas, you can blow up, you can get to 5 million on TikTok, but there's no way 5 million followers on TikTok is actually, all of those are in your town. So it's actually not going to equate to new patients all the time. You might be able to monetize that in other ways, but when you can get 80% of the result just taking a picture of, like, hey, Johnny got his braces off today, here's a picture of him and the doctor. Post that professional looking pictures all over your feed, and then you can just pay OrthoPatients or another agency to run the paid ads that are running, getting people there, getting people into your website, getting people onto your schedule. And that's a much more leveraged, just pay money, fix the problem, instead of having to think through new content. It's a never ending content treadmill if you're trying to do what Grant Collins does, or any of these other bigger social media personalities.
Exactly. And those guys who are really good at it would probably be doing it anyway because they like it. So it's genuine they are and what they enjoy doing. For me, like, if you look at my personal social media accounts, like, it's nothing's on there because it's not what I like to do. Like, that's not really my personality. I'm not, big into the social scene. So I do like, business and operations. And so the back end of Facebook, the Facebook ads, like, I love that because I can see, like, I put money here, more money comes out there. And so that's my mind. So me trying to do TikToks, like, and our social media guy who does our organic stuff, he's trying to grow our TikTok. I wouldn't go and look at ours for an example of how to do it right, because most of the time, like, they post a video of me and it's like 13 views. So, they go get some of our clinicians do some dance or song in the clinic and it gets like 5,000. So I'm not, the king of TikTok, and I never will be. So I don't even try to play in that sandbox. I lean into where my strengths are. So if you're someone who loves social media, who's good at it naturally, you could probably turn that into a profitable center for your business. If you're like me and you're not, then you should look for, how can I get patients some other way? Me trying to get patients off of TikTok is probably going to be a losing battle. It's going to take a ton of time and effort, and it's probably not going to get results. And so most orthodontists are probably somewhere in between that, like the extremes of being amazing at it and being horrible at it, like I am. So again, if you don't have a ton of time or money for marketing, I would say probably not the social side, the organic side. I would focus on the paid side and learning the strategy. I think there's an easier path to getting more new patients and more money that way than trying to go full in, like, we're going to shoot videos every week and post them on TikTok and it's just going to blow up. Like, that's going to be an uphill battle. And if you love it and you do it anyway, go for it. But if you're doing it just for new patients, I would say probably not the best return on effort for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I just finished filming a piece of content about how organic, I would say, is 30% of your effort can go into organic, but 70% should be, or even 80-20 should be on paid because it's going to produce better results with less effort every single time.
And it's predictable. That's the one thing
Yep.
I like, is I know money goes in here, I can 5x the money over there. If I shoot a video, I have no idea how it's going to perform or how much money is going to come back out of it. And there's almost no way to track that, you know, for the most part. So
Yep.
I like things that are predictable and, again, scalable, where money goes in here, more money comes out there. If I put a ton of time over here and I'm just hoping and wishing that it works, like, that's not how I want to operate.
Yep. Awesome. So now let's go over to the internal marketing side of things. What do you guys do? I remember you mentioned this, like when you were running Ortho Marketing DFY, this was sort of something that was very easy to sell to orthodontists because everybody wants this happening in their practice, but it was difficult to deliver because of how everybody, you know, how different the practices operate. You know, maybe their website wasn't up to scratch. And so what you were trying to run, or they weren't getting back to you because there's a million things that need to get designed. So tell us about internal marketing. And I'm assuming this is one that's just pretty much completely in-house.
Yeah, so internal marketing is tough, and it's going to be different for every practice. So that's what we found, is trying to cookie cutter it for what works for us, for everyone else, is not necessarily a predictable way to get new patients. So we used to be, you know, when we had fewer practices, we were higher fee, lower volume practice. And so for us, internal marketing was huge because, you know, we were $6,000, $6,500 a case. So we could spend a lot of money on, you know, giving them gifts, doing these contests, giving out like expensive tickets, and, you know, giving out big t-shirts and having these big parties. So it all worked well because, you know, each new patient was, you know, worth a lot of money. As our practice grew and we got more locations, more doctors, more facilities, internal marketing got extremely difficult to do because the experience is not the same across all practices, all locations. And so we found that we've actually took most of the budget from our internal marketing and diverted that into paid ads at this point of our practice, because that is much more predictable. We actually lowered our fees dramatically. So we're closer to like the 4,000 range. So again, our profit margin for each patient is down now. So investing in internal marketing, we still do cool stuff. We still have like icy machines in the office. We give out cookies, we give out t-shirts, we do campaigns for reviews and referrals every so often. So we still do those aspects. But for us, we found that, again, it's all about return on investment. Spending money on internal marketing worked and it gave us a return. But when we figured out how to put that into paid marketing, we got a much higher return on those. And so that's kind of been our focus in the last couple of years. So back in the day when we were doing the Ortho Marketing DFY, we were 100% on internal marketing. And we've kind of evolved to now we're to the point where we need to do, you know, something a little bit more scalable and bigger. But as far as, you know, other orthodontic practices, I think there are bare minimums you should do. Like, I mean, you should deliver a good experience. You should, you know, do things that make your patients happy. You should have nice waiting rooms. Giving out some kind of swag with your, you know, logo on it's still a good idea. As far as like putting huge amounts of dollars in this, you can do it. I think doing it in-house definitely makes more sense. But again, if you're looking on return on effort and return on investment, I think doing something like a Facebook ad or Google ad is lower effort and probably higher return on investment than doing internal marketing. But it does depend on your market and your demographics and competition, everything else. Smaller town orthodontist, lots of people, fewer competition. That may be all you need to do is referral marketing, and you can, you know, do really well. For us in Phoenix, you know, we have an office in the metro center of Phoenix where it's just all metropolitan. You know, there's a million people that could see my ad versus, you know, a couple hundred people that could see my t-shirt. Like at a certain point, the balance tips to let's get those ads out in front of as many eyeballs as possible and focus less on the t-shirts. But if you're in a small town, like t-shirts at a baseball game might be a huge return, and the ads, no one might see your ads because no one's Googling orthodontist near me. So it's going to depend on the market and demographic, but If you're in a larger metropolitan market, I definitely would say paid ads is probably going to be the bigger ROI and definitely, better on the return on effort, but it's going to be hit and miss market to market.
Yeah. And when you mentioned like referral campaigns and review campaigns, are those emails you're sending out? How do you do, let's talk about the referral campaigns first. How would you go about running a referral campaign?
So there's a couple ways to do it, and you definitely need to check your local regulations. There's, in healthcare business, like paying someone for a referral for healthcare in most states is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to like tiptoe around how you word it and the regulations and making sure that you're above board. So most orthodontists could do it blatantly against the regulations and get away with it because we're so small.
Mm-hmm.
Our practice is to the size now that if we don't do it by the book, we get called out and people notice. So for us now, it's more like for the referral campaigns, we say if you refer a friend that comes in for a consultation, you can get entered to win, but there's these other ways to enter to win. So it's not the only way. So there's no direct connection to refer a friend, we pay you money. Then there's also, for a long time, we did a deal where we said, we want to mail a copy of our book to your friend, give us your friend's contact information, we'll mail them a book. Like that's technically like legal, but asking for contact information for someone that hasn't given you permission to contact them is again getting in that gray area. So that's something we've not done a lot of. So it's more refer friends just to kind of remind patients to do it, but it's not like the sole way to get entered. So again, if you're smaller, like some of the practices we purchased, there was one that had a big sign right near the front desk, like when your friends start treatment, your friend gets $200 off braces and you get $200 towards your account. Like that's probably effective, but it's 100% illegal in Arizona. So he got away with it, the guy we bought it from, but I mean, we bought his practice, so apparently wasn't that effective either. So so
got it.
Again, like those things, like it's really tricky. It's like hit and miss on what a successful referral campaign can do. So that's where we've put a little less energy into doing that. But things like Google review campaigns, it's again, the terms of service on Google's you have to be careful with. If you're small, you can get away with it because no one's going to call you out on it. Even when we do things within the terms of service, we get emails from like, we've got 10,000 patients in our email list and they'll be like, hey, I work for Google and this is against terms of service, or hey, I work for Yelp. And just so you know, you guys can get shut down for this. We've gotten like notices from Yelp saying you guys are against terms of service, and we're trying to be very careful with what we do, and people still call us out on it. So for review campaigns, we've switched to doing those just in office, and we tell patients while they're physically there, like, hey, if you leave us a review, we'll give you a $5 Starbucks gift card. And we don't say it has to be a 5-star review, it has to be a positive review. We just say, if you leave us a review, we'll give you this. And then the staff gets incentivized. They get $5 for every one of those they get. And so that's where we've gotten now to review campaigns, just because every time you do it through email, in a mass email, that's, again, hedging on the violating terms of service. And every time we do it, we manage to get a Google employee somewhere on our email list and them calling us out. So
it almost sounds like with the internal marketing, you're just better off providing an amazing customer experience and like mentioning reviews or having a sign that says leave a review or like refer a friend. And that's pretty much it. Like everything else is more predictable on the paid ad side of thing. And as long as you're providing a great experience for your patients, they're going to refer, right?
That's kind of where we've gotten to. We've kind of gone full circle where we were full in on like, let's do everything for internal marketing. When we shifted our effort and our, time towards paid ads, our practice has grown tremendously. So we've not seen a drop off by doing less of the internal marketing. We've just seen a huge growth by growing external marketing. So again, I used to preach internal marketing. It used to be what we sold and what we did as a service. I've kind of gone to the point now where paid ads is really, at least for us, much more profitable.
Yeah.
And so again, doing those bare minimums of doing great orthodontics, giving them a great customer service experience, asking for reviews, and doing different things to get referrals and reviews. But again, for us, we've got to be super duper cautious. Other offices could probably skirt the edges a little bit more and not get called out on it. So,
Got it.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
and it makes sense because I think at least a lot of like marketing managers that I've talked to in offices are either like part-time marketing manager, part-time TC or front office, or they just have zero marketing background and the doctor's asking them to, figure out how to market the practice. And naturally what they're going to gravitate towards is dentist referrals and like leave a review and refer your friends type things because they just don't know about Facebook ads and paid Google ads, right?
yeah. So again, hiring someone off the street to be your marketing manager that knows nothing about marketing, like they're going to gravitate to the only things they know is like, this patient can tell their friends about us, this dentist can send patients to us.
Yep.
And so for most orthodontists, that is the definition of marketing, is someone that goes and delivers muffins to the dental offices. Like,
Yeah.
we've interviewed people for jobs that are like, oh yeah, I was the marketing manager. I was like, okay, cool. Tell me what you did for marketing. Well, we went and visited 15 dental offices every month. Like,
Yeah.
it is marketing, but it's not, really marketing. So,
Yeah.
so again, hiring someone who's got that technical background or strategic background is much more difficult, but it is definitely possible. You're just going to pay them a lot more than, the assistant turned marketing manager.
Yep. Got it. Cool. So I've got a few more questions here for the last few minutes. First one is, what's your biggest piece of advice for an older, more established practice? Obviously, you can only speak to your experience, but just based on your experience, what would be your advice to them?
So, whatever you're currently doing, continue doing that. So whatever got you here, don't abandon that. So if that was referral marketing, keep doing those things, but you need to be prepared to pivot and change and bring on new aspects. So that's going to depend on what your market looks like and then what your goals are as well. If you only want, again, a single practice location that's seen a dip in new patients, if you only need 5 to 10 new patients in addition each month, you could probably do, Facebook ads with you guys to get that difference. And that may be all you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
If your goals are bigger and you want to grow and scale and add new locations, you need to be prepared to do things very differently. And so that might include brand new website, redoing everything top to bottom with someone who knows what they're doing, learning a lot of this yourself so that you can direct it and guide the ship, and then hiring some people that are good at doing those things like Facebook ads, Google ads, and search engine optimization. But again, it depends on your goals and your stage of practice and how many new patients you want. And then if you can figure out what your numbers are and work backwards, then you know what effort you need to go. So if our goal and intention was to just keep 2 practices as full-time practices from the start, like we could have done that probably with internal marketing, maybe dental referral marketing, and some basic website Facebook stuff. But growing, penetrating the Phoenix market and taking a huge market share, it took a lot of time and effort and investment, because that was our goal and ambition. So it really depends on where you are, where you want to be, and kind of the end goals with that. But you need to be prepared to pivot and move and learn new things as well.
Got it. And then to someone starting, let's say they just bought a practice, they're just out of school and they're starting out 1-2 days a week. What's your advice to them? What should they be focusing on their first year?
So they should become a student of marketing. They have all the time in the world, and they grew up with an iPad in their hands. They know how the internet works. Like, there's no reason, like if you're an orthodontist, you were number 1 in your college class, you were number 1 in your dental school class. I've been to marketing conferences. I've been to a lot of them. Like, most people in the room are not as smart as orthodontists. Like, it's just like orthodontists are some of the most brilliant people on earth.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't learn how to do this. It's not rocket science.
Mm.
If you want to learn it, it's, you know, a lot of the information's free. What's not free costs $200. Like,
Yeah.
you know, pay the bill, learn the course, put in the time and effort, and figure out how to do it. And then again, at bare minimum, learn the strategy so that you can direct the agencies that you hire to do it for you.
Yeah.
But if you're brand new and you've got more time than money, like, learn how to do it yourself. Like, again, if you've got through ortho school, there's no reason you couldn't learn how to run Facebook ads. It's not that difficult, or at the very least know enough to direct the agency running Facebook ads for you.
Yeah.
There's no reason you couldn't learn how to build a basic website. Like, again, you may not want to do that forever, but if you've got very little money at the start, you could figure out how to build the basics, or at least learn enough to guide and direct someone to do it properly.
Nice.
So I would say investing in your education and learning how to do it would be huge. And, you know, you have to be better than your competition. And the good news is most orthodontists are not very good at marketing. So it's not that hard to be the best in your market at that topic. So,
Yeah.
you know, learning to be the smartest marketer in the room of orthodontists should be your core focus if you're brand new out of school.
I love that. I love that. Especially, you know, you've got way more time than everybody else whose practice is full. So dedicate all of that into marketing and get your name out there.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're an older doctor that, you know, has a declining practice, but maybe only 5 years left, like, you probably don't need to learn how to build a website. Like, that's probably not the best return on effort. You know, go find someone and direct them to do some aspects for you to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be as simple as hiring someone to do Facebook ads to give you a bump of 5 to 10 new patients a month. And, you know, that's an easy thing to do, and be comfortable with, you know, investing in marketing. Like, so many doctors, their marketing budget is like 1% of their budget. Like, for a while, ours was 15%. Like, we were huge on it. Right now, we're closer to 6 to 7% because our revenue has grown so much. You know, we've never cut back on marketing, but we've kind of hit that critical point where it's working so well that we don't have to increase the amount of spend we do to get better results. So, but initially you have to be willing to invest and, you know, spend the money to get that result.
Yeah. I love that. We actually had a client, Dr. John Yurkovich up in Michigan, who I reached out. We talked in like March of last year, I think. And he was like, yeah, it looks really interesting, all this stuff. And then COVID hit and we were just, you know, he ghosted me. We didn't talk. And then we had this Black Friday special going on and Tyler texted him. He texted us back and was like, yeah, I've actually I just watched your YouTube videos. Like, I had a lot of free time during lockdown and I like set up some ads myself and it works. What you talk about works. And I need someone to do the follow-up for me now because my team's overwhelmed. And so he ended up hiring our follow-up team. And I just thought it was like, I'm not mad at all. Like, that's why it's out there. That's why we put out all this free content. So doctors can learn how to do these things themselves and, you know, kind of break the chain, so to speak, of the tech guys doing it all for them. And I just thought that was an amazing story. But a doctor just, you know, he's like, it wasn't that hard, you know, spent 10, 20 hours learning and like trying to figure it out. And here I am today, and I'm running my own ads and they're profitable.
Yeah. Like I said, if you know, pass the dental board exam and you were number one in your dental school class, like, you know, the 20-year-old kid building Facebook ads is not smarter than you. They're just focused on that area and willing to put in the time and effort. So if you're young and got the time, like, there's no reason you shouldn't at least be proficient at the basics of marketing, so that, because it's not going to go away. I mean, the digital world is getting bigger and bigger. So, you know, now's the time to get in front of that and at least get some knowledge to how to direct it, because it's not going to get less important in the future.
Well done. So we've got time for 2 more questions, I think. So the first one I want to ask is why, I think Tyler mentioned this. I called him right before, like, hey, is there any questions I should ask Dr. Tyler? And he said, ask him why social media is so powerful and so effective. Why specifically that side of marketing?
Yeah, so we've seen traditional media consumption is dropping dramatically. So if you look at how many people watch TV or listen to traditional radio, it's dropped by like 50%. So some of these big news stations like, CNN, MSNBC, like their viewership has dropped 40, 50, 60%, especially after the election. And young people don't even know, like they don't even notice. They couldn't care less. So it's not like all these young people are suddenly, because they're not watching TV, they're reading books and going to the gym more. Like they're still wasting time. They're just not staring at a TV, they're staring at their phone.
Yeah.
So as the, trends continue, more and more young people turn into buyers and turn into future patients. And so where they consume media, where they consume entertainment, where they consume information is social media. That's like their primary one. And it's going to be a different platform.
It's right here.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
So again, Facebook was the king and it's still kind of the king, but there's other channels popping up. Like, so we play in all those other ones, but Facebook and Instagram is still definitely the predominant force of social media. So you got to go where the eyeballs are. And so right now that's social media and it's going to be for the foreseeable future. And, as the times change, things change, you have to learn to shift and pivot to wherever that's going. But right now that's where it's at. And until it changes, that's where you need to be as well. So traditional media is, kind of going away more or less. So you have to change to where people are right now.
Love it. And then the last thing I wanted to ask about is tell us about work-life balance and kind of deciding as an orthodontist how far you want to go. Like when did you decide I want to penetrate the Phoenix market, and where did that ambition come from, and how can people kind of align their work life with their values?
Yeah, so my brother and I have always been very entrepreneurial, and we love the business side. We love a challenge. And so for us, it gets us excited to get up in the morning to see like, what is our growth? How many more new patients can we get? How many, how bigger can we get? So for us, that fuels our passion. For a lot of guys, that may not be who you are. So not everybody needs to, be this ambitious to, get this big, to get this many new patients. So I think figuring out, where you're comfortable, how much money do you need to make to be happy? And also like, money, like you can live on a pretty good lifestyle on a lower income, but if you get bored, like for us, that's kind of where it is now, is it's the next challenge. It's the next thing to learn, the next thing to try. Income wise, my brother and I are fine. We could probably stop where we're at and be content. But for us, it's really, fun to do the next challenge. The same reason like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, these guys that have billions, and Elon Musk, like they could not work, but they choose to work because that's fun for them. That's what they do. That's what their passion is. So I think figuring out, again, what your passion is, if it's not, business, if it's not entrepreneurship, if it's not growing your business, like there's no reason you need to try to grow like that. So if it's working 3 days a week and making this amount per year, figure out what that number is, then work backwards. Like how many new patients do I need to get that number? If it's, this many and you can spend this much and get those results, that's great. But at the same time, you do need to keep an eye on it to make sure that doesn't slip and you keep your finger on the pulse. So for me, that's kind of, again, I like orthodontics. I like working in the clinic, but I'm definitely more passionate about the marketing and business side. And so, I still work in the clinic 3 days a week, but 2 days a week, I'm, doing the business and marketing side. And so a lot of guys, that may not be your thing, may not be where you want to spend your time, and that's fine. So I think figuring out what, makes you happy, what kind of gets you excited in the morning. And if it's just straightening teeth and doing good work and making enough money to go on vacations and, having that lifestyle, like that's perfect. Like there's no reason you need to, be the biggest or dominate a market or do anything else. I think figuring out what would make you happy and content and kind of working backwards from there is, what's going to get you the most satisfaction.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks so much, Dr. Tyler. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Yeah. If anybody wants to reach out to you and ask any follow-up questions or maybe get on a call one-on-one with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah. So from time to time, I do have people asking for like, if you just want to like ask a quick question, you can, shoot me an email. That's fine. If you want like a full-blown strategy session where I'm going to really dive in and talk about things, I do strategy calls and do consulting calls. Those are usually $200 an hour. If the demand goes higher, I might up that based on demand. Right now, we're kind of doing our own thing, but I do occasionally help out orthodontists who want to get a strategy in place and kind of learn where to start. And I'm happy to do that. You can reach me at my email, just ty@yourazbraces.com. So that's just ty@yourazbraces.com. So it's not something I'm really doing a ton of or really pushing. It's more, to help other people out. I'm happy to help. But again, to dedicate an hour of my time, it needs to at least have some sort of compensation tied to it. Otherwise, I just can't do it all the time. Got a lot of stuff going on.
And we won't push it too hard. Don't worry.
No worries.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Keaton. We'll see you.
Bye.
How's it going, everybody? If you enjoyed that video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more. This really helps us out, and it helps more orthodontists find content like this that can really help them in their practices. So it means a lot to us if you do that. With all of that said, if you're looking to grow your practice this year, please go to OrthoPatients.com, watch our free training, or just sign up for a call with a member of my team. And I promise it will be one of the most valuable things you do this year for your practice. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.